Welcome to Open Mics episode 3. Today we have another very special guest. Her name is Sohni. Let's hear a little bit from Sohni about why you joined Mics, what made it appealing to you.
Yeah, so I am a little bit newer in my career. I graduated from my undergrad in 2019, so about 3 years in. And I actually did my undergrad degree in mechanical engineering, so nothing really related to cybersecurity at all. But I fell into cybersecurity in my career. And as I started learning more, I work primarily in identity and access management. So as I started learning more about IAM, I wanted to get a more formal education in the majority of cybersecurity. So expanding my bit of a limited view into the rest of cyber. And that's why I applied to the Mike's program. And then obviously I grew up in the Bay Area, so Berkeley was like an obvious choice for me. And so that's kind of how I went through picking what program I wanted to be in, and zero regrets is my general opinion. I think it's a great program. I think not only are the instructors amazing, one of my favorite things is that you get students from all different walks of life, different places in their career, working in different industries as well. So I find myself learning a lot from the instructors, but also learning a lot from the people that I have that I'm in classes with, including Jonathan. So it's like a really good experience, especially for someone who's a little bit younger in their career, to see all the different options that are out there in the field of cybersecurity. Yeah.
That's really cool. I have to ask the question because I love identity and access management.
Yes.
I'm super excited to hear about the transition between mechanical engineering into IAM. I think that'll make a really good story because quite a lot of stories we're hearing are people coming from background A and then going into something very specific in cybersecurity. So I always love hearing about those stories and just digging into how people make the ultimate transition. Can we talk about that?
Yeah. For me, honestly, it was more a story about how I shifted into consulting. So I can definitely tell that if anyone who's listening is interested in getting into consulting, I think it's a very sort of different area in cyber. What we do is slightly different from what you would do if you were working in industry. But when I was in my engineering program, I went to UCLA for my undergrad. And part of the requirement that UCLA has for all their engineers is you're required to take 3 upper division classes in an engineering major outside your own, which in my opinion is a brilliant requirement. As a mechanical engineering major, that was the first time that I even explored computer science at all. So it forces you outside your box, and it forces you to kind of see how different engineering fields can interact. So I took a couple CS classes, loved them, and started thinking, okay, maybe there's a way that I can do something that's also computer science software related. And then I also was interested in a program at UCLA. They do a minor in entrepreneurship that's open to engineering students now through the Anderson School of Management. So that's UCLA's business school. Mm-hmm. And so I was taking a couple business classes as well. And that was fascinating to me because I was interacting with people who were not super technical, but they had awesome like market-based ideas on what you could do with technology. And it was like seeing what I do every day from an entirely different perspective. And that's when I started thinking, okay, I like this. I like being able to, do the technical stuff and understand that, but then also see, okay, if I built a product, how would I capture market share? What does that look like? What's the need out there for consumers and things like that? And that is what dropped me into consulting, because I would say that that's my favorite part of consulting and identity and access management. Yeah. A lot of our clients are at different phases in their IAM journey. So some of them have, limited capabilities, and we're working with them on, just implementing like MFA, something super simple. Yeah. And then there's clients that we have that are way more advanced. And so that's when we start talking about like passwordless, biometrics, things like that, right? So it's it's really cool to not only think about, like the technical perspective where we're like, okay, this is what we need to protect. How are we going to do that? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah.
But also understand where they're at from a business perspective and, like what their customers are used to.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up going from mechanical to identity and access management. And I get a lot of questions where people are like, oh, do you ever think that you could like combine the two? And I haven't found a way just yet. Maybe there are other people in the program, as you guys do more of these podcasts, maybe someone will have a story that's, yeah, I do this and it's mechanical and cyber. And that'll be something that I look into in the future, but I haven't, as of right now, found a way to combine them in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, I think consulting is one of the best entry points because it gives you like tons of exposure really fast.
Yes.
And a lot of it, like a lot of projects in a given year versus someone who goes to like industry, they might work at a single company, go really deep, but secular focused.
So I've got to ask, what is IAM?
Awesome question. So at least what I do, and Jason, you can hop in because I know that you work in this area too. But it's all about managing identities and how they access different resources that your company has. So if you're, speaking from a user perspective, if you're trying to register for a service, if you're trying to access your resources within a service, that like login process, how you, what information you provide and what information the company stores about who you are and how they check and validate that you are who you are and you have the accesses that you should have when you're logging into their system. So a lot of what we do is, or at least a lot of what I do is determining, what information can we store securely? What information should we store together? How should we segregate information, mask information, things like that? And then also how do we allow users to access the site and how do we authorize their access as well? So that's kind of what I do in the identity and access management space.
What would you guys say is the, and I think I know what Jason's going to say, but what would you say is the biggest up and coming technology in IAM that's really exciting?
Oh, I don't know. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff that's happening right now. A lot of companies are coming out with interesting ways to approach identity and access management. I don't know, Jason, what do you think?
Well, Jonathan knows. Oh boy.
Well, I want to hear this.
Well, from a marketing perspective, you certainly hear a lot about the lesses. So passwordless, serverless. The lesses are trending these days. But yeah, verifiable credentials is another component. Verifiable credentials are something like, I need to ensure you're at least 21 years old, but I don't want to reveal my age. So I can give you a credential that's more or less a yes/no answer, rather than, oh, I'm actually this age, which proves the requirement, are you over 21? So verifiable credentials are also a pretty interesting and emerging space. So Jonathan actually came up with this really awesome question. And I'm actually super proud to be the one asking it for today's round. What are you really passionate about? Do you have a passion that to share?
Oh man, that is a good question because it's a tough question.
Yeah.
I do feel like what I'm passionate about changes as I've like gone through life. I mean, you guys can tell I've completely bailed on my old degree. So it's definitely been like something that's changed throughout my life. I feel like one of the things right now that I'm most passionate about is I do really, really love working with clients and solving their specific problems. And I know that sounds a little bit cheesy, but that's something that I do enjoy doing every day. I like talking to people. I like understanding why they've made certain decisions in the past with security and what the best path forward is, and helping them get to a better state. So that's something that I want to keep in, wherever I go in my future, right, is being able to have that human connection and make sure that what we're doing is not just secure from a technology perspective, but is also useful to them and is relevant to the way that they operate in their business. So I think, more so than any industry or any particular area, that's something that I love about my current job, and then that I would want to kind of keep in my life is being able to actually solve problems for real people out there. So,
but I can't think of any better way than to close down on that noble piece of passion that you were able to share with us. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. This is a great experience, and thank you guys for having me.